Hi, and welcome to How'd You Do That? Today I have a very special guest, Nick Gaganiaras. He's the Vice President of Supply Chain Consulting. Welcome, Nick. Thank you for being on our show today.
No, thanks for having me, Nina.
Thank you. Can you tell my audience what you do in your role?
So right now I work with a large multinational commercial real estate organization where I work with industrial real estate advisors across Canada and North America with broadly two mandates. One is to educate and the other is to engage with their clients. So on the education front, I spend a lot of time talking with them about what's happening in the real estate space, what's happening in supply chain, what the major trends are, and what that means for their clients and for the real estate space. And then the other part is also working with their clients on specific projects or engagements to understand where the next facility should be located, what it should look like, where it should be configured, and what the overall supply chain strategy is.
Wonderful. So are you then, per se, working with other organizations that want to open up another facility, and you're trying to help them with that aspect of it, or?
Exactly, it could be that. So it's really understanding what their supply chain is, what they're trying to accomplish with their real estate portfolio, whether it's expanding their network or consolidating, or bringing it down or shrinking it, making sure that it's fully optimized and it's fully utilized.
Right. And so how did you get to where you are now? Can you give us a background about that?
So, well, unlike a lot of people in the supply chain industry, I didn't just end up in logistics. I started off as from a very young age where I've been involved with a family business and kind of grew up in the industry. We started as a fruit market and evolved over the years out of retail and into wholesale, where we served restaurants, cafeterias, and hotels with fresh produce. So that was really my first exposure to the world of warehousing and trucking.
Wow, that's wonderful. And how did you find that?
It was a great experience. So that was, my formative years, I guess, learning off, and then went off to university and decided that I wanted to try something a little bit different. We ended up selling the business, and that left me with a couple different options, but moved into I took my kind of operational knowledge and my experience and moved into the third-party logistics world. So started working with SCI Logistics and Logistics at the time, moved on to Neovia, moved on with Versicold, and grew with different parts of the organizations in both operational and supply chain solutions roles. And then the opportunity came to join Colliers, which is my current organization, and the opportunity to kind of continue doing and focus on the areas that I really enjoy, which is warehousing and supply chain and transportation. And now I'm supporting many different verticals and many different projects with my insights and knowledge. Wonderful.
That sounds awesome. So where did you get your drive to keep going? I mean, you've done, been in many different companies, and it's obviously within supply chain, but it's just, you're doing really well. So what can you say about that?
Well, I guess, like I said, it started off from a very young age, so continued on that path. But I really enjoy what I do, and I'm a warehouse geek, and I love seeing other operations. So this is a great way to see facilities, see operations, and get a sense of what's happening, and keep myself very interested in the industry. So that kind of keeps me going to see what's happening next. And there's so much change happening right now in the industry in terms of technology, both in automation, inside the warehouse, as well as external, as well as the overall technology, shifting the focus from physical to a more digital supply chain. So there's a lot of change, which is exciting, and it's a lot of fun helping companies navigate that and understand what that means for their business.
That's wonderful. So can you talk about your educational background? I mean, you've got so many degrees.
Well, I've got student numbers at many schools, not that many degrees. So I actually started off after your high school, started off at the University of Waterloo in mechanical engineering. And, in the co-op program, it's a great program to get exposure to test different things. And I got a chance to work in aerospace, automotive, and as well as project management. And I originally saw the engineering path as the way to go into the management world. but kind of at that time, I saw that that door was closing slightly, and there was really a focus to specialize within the industry.
Right.
So I decided to switch streams and ended up going to Sheridan
Hmm.
and did the business diploma in finance,
Hmm.
and then continued on to Ryerson, where I got my BCom.
Right.
And most recently, I went to Ivy at the Western and completed my executive MBA. And so
Wonderful.
that's, I think I'm on hold for now in terms of more degrees.
So at this level, how is work-life balance?
It is what you make of it, and it's all about the decisions you make every day.
Right.
The work can consume you, and
Right.
at the end of the day, it will always be there. There will be more work tomorrow morning and more work tonight. So
Right.
it's really about balancing and setting your own limits and understanding what you can do and what you can accomplish.
Right.
Ultimately, I love my work. I love what I do, which keeps me engaged, and I keep focus on my productivity.
Hmm.
But I also do make a conscious decision to make time for myself, make time for my family, as well as my work.
Wonderful. And so we're now just tracking the other way again. Why did you go into the line of supply chain? I know you talked about the family business and was it the exposure of supply chain and logistics in your family business that got you more interested in this line, or?
Yeah, I think that was really the main driver. I loved the movement of goods. I loved the physical nature of it, of seeing something happen. And as I got more and more into the industry, my exposure broadened and seeing more of an end-to-end and the manufacturing, the transportation, the distribution, and then the actual end users and the consumers. It's a very fascinating and very broad industry because essentially, no matter what the company is, it has a supply chain. It somehow
Right.
fulfills and moves product, whether it's a brand or it's a distributor or it's a electronics provider. There's this product moving.
Right.
So it's
So
that kind of kept me going. And my experience in the family business was something that I was able to play off and leverage in order to continue my growth after moving from the business into the corporate world.
wonderful, wonderful. And so what are some of the leading supply chain issues that you think companies are facing this day and age?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is the fact that supply chains are really good at being responsive. They can handle one-off events. They can handle shifts and spikes in order volumes or
Right.
shifting suppliers or
Hmm.
emergencies in other parts of the world that shift, transport patterns.
Hmm.
Um, but there's a huge opportunity and a real need right now for supply chains to become proactive, for supply chains to become strategic, and to
Right.
start moving upstream so that they're part of the planning process, so that the movement of the goods and the delivery of the goods is actually incorporated into the design of the goods. And
Right.
this can be deliver huge dividends in terms of benefits and efficiencies
Right.
throughout the whole business process and drive business performance.
Right. Wow. Wonderful. And so, are there any supply chain issues that we can fix now with what's happening in the market?
Right now, I think the biggest opportunity is around the data and interconnectivity and collaboration.
Okay.
There's so much data available,
Hmm.
um, but it resides in silos. It might be with a trucking
Right.
firm, it might be with another partner, it might be in a different part of the
Right.
organization. A lot of times, procurement is not connected with the sales and marketing side. So it's really about bringing not just all that data together, but also taking and deriving the insights from that data. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest opportunity right now for companies.
Hmm.
Um, the other part is also, from an issue perspective, is that supply chain decisions and supply chain infrastructure is strategic in nature and by its nature is also very long term.
Right.
So warehouse expansions, leases are fixed investments for multiple years, and it requires a longer term perspective. But the
Right.
challenge is going back to a supply chain being reactive. It's very good at handling what's in front of me right now, and we have a big challenge of being able to predict and understand what might happen a week from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now.
Hmm.
And there's so many shifts, like I just talked about,
Right.
happening in the industry from a technology and automation and demand perspective that it's really hard to know what the long-term view is and where we need to be from a supply chain perspective, because those investments need to be made today.
Right. To see that, I guess the end result, right?
Exactly.
On a different note, do you think it's important to have a mentor? And if you do, did you have a mentor?
I think it's very important, whether it's a formal mentor relationship or having leadership that you can look to and is invested in your performance and your development. It's really important, and that's part of that whole leadership relationship that you create and build with your team and with the teams that you're a part of. So I think it's very important for the development, and it's a huge opportunity for people to get exposure and continue to grow, to push themselves and differentiate themselves. Yeah.
Right. No, for sure, definitely. And did you face any struggles along the way, as you climbed the top of the ladder?
Looking back in my career, I've been somewhat blessed and not had too many struggles. Some of the biggest challenges have actually been being younger. So when I first started in the industry, kind of moving, I had a lot of experience in the family business, so that gave me a leg up and helped me move into an operations manager role. But it becomes a challenge when you're dealing with people that are significantly older and have been in the industry or been in operations for much longer, and seeing younger people being promoted over them, it creates a bit of friction. So dealing with that and harnessing that energy in more constructive ways rather than letting it become destructive was a challenge. And another area, I guess, just as I've moved between and had the opportunity to see different cultures and different companies, is finding the right fit. I think that's really important. They talk about the hiring process where you hire for fit and you hire for attitude. You can have the right attitude coming into it, but not a lot of times, it might not have the right fit with the organization. It might have a different direction. It might not be the right opportunity for you. Might look good on paper, but in reality, it could be very different. So those are kind of the two of my biggest challenges, but they've made me part of who I am today. So I'm happy with where I've gotten and where I'm heading. So it's I will take those all day long and keep going.
So what is your passion? I mean, what drives you? What is it that makes Nick or Nick tick?
Oh, just those four letters. That's my name. It's who I am. Like I said before, I'm a warehouse geek, so I love what I do. So this is really not work. I really enjoy it. I enjoy getting out in the warehouse and walking and seeing new facilities and what they're doing, talking with the different staff and getting different perspectives. So it's a lot of fun, and that's part of my passion. I'd also be remiss, my family, I do enjoy time with my family, and they're young right now. I've got two young boys and my wife, and so we're still finding our groove and figuring out how to make everything work and find creative ways to release energy. They seem to be, kids are an endless battery. You're trying to drain that before they go to sleep.
Definitely. So what's next for you, Nick?
I think my biggest project in front of me right now is I'm looking at ways to give back to the supply chain community. I've had great opportunities within the industry, and I'm looking to become more involved and trying to build a bit more of a community around that supply chain practice, whether it be with the different industry organizations or other mentoring opportunities, but trying to forge some new connections with people outside of my direct daily connections to help provide some guidance, provide some feedback, and provide some insights that they might not have received otherwise.
Right. So are you saying that you're open to the idea of people connecting with you, perhaps maybe even on LinkedIn, and see where it goes from there with
Yes, no, I've had over the last 4 months, I've actually started becoming more actively involved in LinkedIn and posting more frequently, as well as engaging with some conversations. And I think it's a great community of people that are looking to make new connections, and this is a great tool for us to use. So I'm definitely open to getting that email or responding to people with questions. Feel free to reach out.
That sounds great. That's wonderful. And I think you might have a little bit extra emails than normal.
This is the good
And
kind of emails. That's all good.
exactly. And can you provide any takeaways from your success?
Um, I think the biggest one for me is for anyone out there is know your worth.
Right.
A good company will recognize that, and they'll develop you. They'll invest in you, and you'll be participating in development programs, whether they be structured or individual mentoring and coaching conversations. Conversely, I've seen companies out there that don't. If you don't know that we're worth or are not willing to be vocal about it, that companies
Right.
will take advantage of it. If you do a
Right.
good job day in, day out, chances are you might get pigeonholed into doing that job day in, day out, even if
Right.
you want to do more.
Right.
So know what you can do, know that you are worth it,
Uh-huh.
and don't be afraid to ask if you're not getting the support you need to
Right.
continue to develop. I'd say that would be my biggest takeaway.
Wonderful. And is there any advice you can give to someone who wants to climb the ladder to be where you are at, today? What advice can you give them?
You know, networking is big.
Right.
Building your community and building a like-minded community of people but in today's day and age of algorithms and all that, still don't be afraid to send in a resume.
Right.
I've had through my career growth and moving with different companies, I've worked with recruiters that have interviewed with them, and then you go through that process
Hmm.
to get into a company. But I've also found success with just the company website and the career section,
Right.
sending in a resume and a good cover letter. So there's still a lot of ways to get out there and make investments in yourself and take that risk.
Okay.
That would be it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And any last words that you'd like to say before we end the conversation today?
I think of the big one is just enjoy yourself, whatever it is you do, and
Right.
the time will pass no matter what. So make the most of it, and if you enjoy it, then time will fly.
Right. So well said, Nick. And you know what? I appreciate your time. You're a very busy man, and the fact that you've enlightened us with some great advice and good takeaways. So thank you so much.
No,
Appreciate it again.
thank you very much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity and hope to have some great connections and conversations out of this.
Oh, definitely. Take care, Nick.
All right, thanks, Nina. Have a great day.
Okay, you
Bye bye.
too. Bye.